You've probably noticed this in a few different places in these videos already, but I kind of have a weird way of naming things. And I also use project codes, as you can see here. So let's dive in. Again, this is my real system. So these are actual projects in my real setup. I really want you to be able to see how this works in the real world. I have 3 projects here at the top: my Learn OmniFocus webinar, a mindfulness article I'm working on for the suite setup, and this particular course, working with OmniFocus 3.0. Kind of odd that it has no remaining items there, but hey, I know what's coming next and I'm working on it right now. So I have these project codes at the beginning. We'll get into more detail on how I use those with other tools later on. But with that particular setup, I always know whenever I see the date, dash, and a number, followed by a pipe, and then my naming for those, that's always going to be a multi-step project. It's one time, it's not going to repeat. It's a single project that I'm working on right now that I have committed to. Now, with these particular projects, I have a tendency to always name them in lowercase. Maybe that's just the developer in me, but I always name things lowercase for whatever reason. It just looks better to me. But I always have that project code at the beginning. The next 4 that you see there, the 3 content projects followed by the bookworm episode project, those are all recurring projects that are either parallel or sequential. And I put pipes at the beginning and end of those because they are recurring projects that I do on a regular basis. Again, we'll get into the detail of what's inside some of those content projects later, but these are particular projects, pipe, beginning and end. I will never add to these. That's what that signifies. So it has basically, think of it as bookends at the beginning and end of it. It's always contained. I'm not going to be adding to it. Whereas the 3 at the top, those one-off projects, to me, they don't have bookends on them. So yes, I can add to those. But the other 4, I'm not going to do that. It's a standalone thing in itself. The very bottom, H&A Tech. This is the H&A Tech folder. H&A Tech is my LLC that I use to run all of my content-driven material through. So that particular LLC, I always have the dash H&A Tech, the name of the folder, dash at the end. If I went into any of these other folders, you would see that as well. The BCC one has dash BCC dash. Intentionalism, same thing. Security, all the same. Family team, same thing. All of those folders have one of those single action lists at the bottom of it. That's primarily because it's one-off actions. That's exactly what it is. Sometimes I have a one step that needs to happen. This person needs an email. I need to pick up this cable and go put it in the other room. I need to go make sure this projector works. It's not a multi-step project. It's just a one-off. So that's exactly what these are for. The beauty of having this naming structure is that whenever I see a number, I always know it's a one-off. But whenever I need to add a new task to something, if I happen to know the project code for it, which in some cases I know that 4-digit, so for working with OmniFocus 3.0, I very quickly, for whatever reason, knew that it was 0034, as you can see here. That particular number, I could always do a search for it. So if I go into the OmniFocus search, do my 0034, there's that project. That makes it super easy to get to things. Now, to be honest, in most cases, I don't know that number. I can do the search for the OmniFocus piece, the 3.0. I could get to it in different ways. But I also know that whenever I'm adding new tasks, I can do that same search when in the project field whenever I'm adding it to that. So it's not super important there. Where this gets really handy is the dash, title, dash. And this is kind of a trick I picked up from Tim Stringer with Learn OmniFocus. He does this. I forget what he uses for it. Maybe it's brackets to signify the single actions list. I like the dashes just because it's not a character I use a lot whenever I'm naming things, especially at the beginning. So if I have a single action to add somewhere, it's very easy to just type the dash and start typing in the area of focus it belongs to. Boom, I'm done. That's the beauty of that. I encourage you to think through what your structure is going to look like. I really like the project code process. It's super helpful to have some automated scripts that make that possible. And I will share mine that I use for that later on. But I think you're going to really want, whenever you've got recurring projects, use the pipes or something. If you've got single action lists for each of your area of focus, use the dashes or brackets or whatever it is that makes the most sense to you, percent signs, you name it. Find a way to make those easy to get to, because no matter what you're doing, if you're adding single actions or you're adding a task to a project directly, it makes it super easy if you have an easy way to name those things, and you can easily guess what those particular types of projects are and get the task where it needs to go quickly.